I offer up my body. I say, hey guys, come and do what you want to me, as opposed to them doing something to somebody else.
Once a bored office worker in suburban England, now infamous as Bonnie Blue, the woman who claims to have slept with 1,057 men in just 12 hours. Her story is one of fame, money, and controversy. An ordinary life turned upside down by an extraordinary choice.
I started off camming. So when you go on these sites online, you can speak to girls one-on-one. I started off doing that for a couple of weeks. Enjoyed it, had good money, liked interacting with people. And then I was like, okay, I might set up OnlyFans because I was aware of it but didn't know too much about it.
Before she was Bonnie Blue, she was Tia Billinger, born in May 1999 in the quiet town of Stapleford, Nottinghamshire. Tia's childhood was far from chaotic. In fact, it was about as normal as it gets. Middle class, supportive parents, no dark secrets lurking in the background, no daddy issues cliché to explain what came later. Her early life painted the picture of a girl destined for ordinary success. She loved dancing and competed in local dance competitions, dreaming of maybe making it big on stage someday. At school, she was bright, friendly, and full of ambition. She even toyed with the idea of becoming a midwife, a career path worlds apart from what she eventually chose. Alongside that, she worked part-time jobs, learning the value of paycheck and a routine. What's fascinating here is the contrast. If you'd met her back then, you'd never have guessed she'd grow up to shock headlines across the UK. Her story doesn't follow the typical troubled past leads to wild future narrative. Instead, Bonnie's transformation feels more like a sharp left turn, the kind that makes people say, wait, how did she end up there?
There isn't like a set mission, I'd say. I just want to stay happy. I'm not saying, oh, my mission in life is to do 10,000 or my mission in life is to do X, Y, and Z. I just want to stay happy.
From the outside, Bonnie's teenage years looked like the beginning of a love story. At just 15 years old, she married her childhood sweetheart, packed her bags, and moved across the world to Australia. While most teenagers were worrying about exams, Bonnie was already learning how to navigate adult responsibilities. She landed a steady job in recruitment, the kind of 9-to-5 that promised stability but offered very little excitement. By the early 2020s, that fairy tale marriage had unraveled. Divorce can leave some people broken, but for Bonnie, it became the catalyst for reinvention. Instead of retreating, she leaned into something very different: adult content creation.
Didn't know too much about the industry before I started, and it's as simple as filming videos and putting it online. I guess that's how I started.
But you had a job in recruitment, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
So, well paid?
Yeah, average, sort of average pay, average annual leave, the whole thing to summarise it, average.
She started small, webcam modeling, but quickly realized there was serious money to be made. Within her first week on OnlyFans, she pulled in over 5,000 Australian dollars. Think about that, more in a few days than she could have dreamed of making in a month at her recruitment desk. It was the first time she had glimpsed the financial freedom and notoriety this new path could bring. Her operation started expanding into a kind of family business. Reports claim even her ex-husband helped manage parts of her career while she supported him financially. And others in her close circle also became part of the machine behind Bonnie's growing career, an eyebrow-raising twist that blurs the line between personal life and business. From a quiet recruitment office to the neon-lit world of webcams and subscription platforms, Bonnie had made her pivot. But fame in this world doesn't happen overnight, it creeps up, scandal by scandal. And Bonnie Blue was climbing that ladder with a plan. She first carved out her name during Australia's notorious Schoolies Week, an annual binge-drinking festival where high school graduates celebrate their newfound freedom. Bonnie's signature tactic? Targeting barely legal young men, 18, sometimes even fresh out of exams, who were eager to brag about a wild encounter. It was raw, chaotic, and deliberately shocking, but it put her on the map. From there, she doubled down in the UK, inserting herself into Freshers' Week when thousands of wide-eyed first-year university students flooded clubs and campuses. Bonnie positioned herself as the ultimate rite of passage, something outrageous, unfiltered, and impossible to forget. But these were just warm-ups for her real headline grabber. Each event built her reputation as the woman who was willing to go further, faster, and harder than anyone else in adult entertainment. But it wasn't until she staged the stunt that made international headlines that her name became cemented in infamy.
I'm the girl that's out with 1,057 men, and there's 1,057 guys which are potential dads. I just wonder which one it is.
The numbers are mind-blowing, and the preparation was equally mind-blowing. In Channel 4's documentary, the behind-the-scenes logistics were laid bare. 1,600 condoms, 50 balaclavas for anonymity, and jars of industrial-grade numbing lubricant to make the act physically possible. The event itself was not about sex, but rather an ultimate shock and spectacle. The response from the world was explosive. There were those that found it degrading, there were those who found it empowering through extreme acts, and there were those that legitimized her as a cultural provocateur as well as a performer at the extreme end of the sex performance art spectrum. Bonnie Blue was then catapulted to another level of infamy when she became the focus of Channel 4's documentary 1,000 Men and Me, The Bonnie Blue Story. For the first time, they followed her behind the scenes, showing the mechanics of her stunts, her mental processes, and the apparent circus atmosphere that comprised her traveling entourage. But while the program offered access, it immediately raised questions. Was this journalism or exploitation disguised as entertainment?
Do you think that added any value to society?
Well, one, you don't have to do something to add value. I'm not responsible for adding value. But did it do anything wrong? No, so yeah, it did add value.
For many, this wasn't groundbreaking TV. It was a sign of how far broadcasters would go for ratings. Newspapers piled on, with headlines blasting the show as irresponsible, and critics demanded to know why an act so controversial was being platformed in prime time. Even more damning was what the film didn't do. The documentary focused on spectacle without asking any obvious questions related to consent, legality, or the ethics of Bonnie's world record-breaking stunt. It was Bonnie Blue presented as a cultural oddity, not a case study in deeper social or ethical issues. And that lack of confrontation became the real scandal, because in the eyes of many, the film gave her a stage, but failed to hold her accountable.
What have you been blamed for?
Culture. Promoting.
Okay.
It is non-consensual. The content I make is consensual. And it couldn't be more black and white than that. Yet, unfortunately, people pretend there's a grey area in that.
Bonnie Blue doesn't just sell content, she sells a philosophy. To some, she's redefining the boundaries of sex work. To others, she's just spinning provocation into PR gold. When asked why she does it, Bonnie leans hard on the words like feminism and empowerment. She described her work as a kind of community service, even a public service. In her world, men aren't clients, they are part of an experiment, proof that women can flip the script and monetize male desire on their own terms. Many publications have highlighted this calculated reframing, showing how she blends ideology with commerce to make herself untouchable. But beneath that rhetoric is a chilling emotional detachment. "I'm just not emotional," she told interviewers. "If I don't want to get upset, I won't get upset." Critics point out that this robotic control makes her come across less as a vulnerable person and more as a deliberately constructed character. And that's the real debate. Is Bonnie Blue a provocateur who thrives on outrage, or a savvy businesswoman who understands exactly how controversy fuels clicks, subscriptions, and headlines? To her supporters, she's breaking taboos. To her detractors, she's commodifying herself in the most extreme way possible and dressing it up as empowerment. Either way, the Bonnie Blue persona is as much a performance as the explicit content itself. And that is where Bonnie is happiest, in the twilight zone of empowerment and exploitation, of performance and reality. When the buzz from her initial stunt started cooling, Bonnie doubled down with something even more shocking. She announced what she called the Petting Zoo Challenge, a grotesque spectacle where she would be tied naked inside a glass box, inviting 2,000 men to come and use her. OnlyFans, the very site that had amplified her notoriety, banned her account outright, labeling the stunt too extreme even for their notoriously permissive rules. But Bonnie wasn't about to disappear. Within days, she had migrated to Fansly, a smaller adult content site, where she continued monetizing her brand of shock and provocation. Then came another blow. Following the release of the Channel 4 documentary, Instagram permanently suspended her account. For critics, it was proof that mainstream platforms were finally drawing the line. However, the restriction simply strengthened Bonnie's argument that she was being restricted for defying sexual standards rather than for being obscenity.
This is coming from a good place as
For
well,
sure.
because I don't want you dead one day, and I
Yeah.
also don't want young girls following in your footsteps with the greatest respect.
See, I'm more than happy for girls to follow my footsteps as long as they understand, hey, look, I get death threats. Hey, I get banned from places without even doing anything wrong. Like, I think it's more than okay for people's footsteps as long as they're strong enough.
Her career is capitalism in overdrive, the purest expression of an attention economy where extreme always wins. In this landscape, bodies, shock value, and spectacle aren't just personal, they're commodities. And Bonnie packaged herself like a luxury brand, leveraging the same mechanics tech companies and influencers use, but taking it to the absolute limit. Critics argue that her success is symptomatic of a broken system, a system that digital platforms have established to reward provocation over substance. The algorithm is not a neutral mechanism. The algorithm thrives on anger, elevating Bonnie for every gasp, every furious comment, every pearl-clutching headline that reflects her immorality. But here's the paradox. Despite what she elicits in moral panic, society remains apathetic about the conditions that made her. We may chastise Bonnie for going too far, but we ignore the larger machine that compelled her to go too far in the first place. In the end, Bonnie transcends being a provocateur. She becomes a case study in late-stage capitalism, illustrating that in our culture, obsessed with attention, boundaries are not breached accidentally, they are breached for profit.
I would say I don't know how more people don't copy. I give a lot of sex workers a clear blueprint on how to be successful with your marketing, how to present yourself. The other reason why I guess people don't copy is because I clearly enjoy it. And I wouldn't want people to try and copy and put themselves in hospital left bleeding, which other people have done.
No matter the circumstances, Bonnie never seems to slip out of the public eye. Rumors of a romance with 19-year-old rapper Lil Mabu swirled across social media, with some outlets even speculating about a possible engagement. Whether true or not, the pairing only deepened her image as a lightning rod for controversy. One foot in the music world, another firmly planted in internet infamy. Layered over it all are questions of her mental health. Each time she undertook a crazy stunt or achieved another headline-inducing challenge, critics became more distraught. Some even described her as a walking suicide, implying that she was just in the catastrophic public nightmare of self-destruction. But Bonnie flatly rejects that characterization. To her, the madness is not a declining symptom, but liberation. She insists she's not spiraling, she's fulfilled, content, and very much in control. Whether that's true or another performance for the spotlight is a question still hanging in the air. So in the end, who is Bonnie Blue? A villain? A victim? Or just a symptom of something bigger? Her story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about ambition, the monetization of bodies, and the ecosystem that rewards shock over substance. Maybe it's not just about her choices, but about the culture that made them profitable. I'll leave it to you to decide. If you want more deep dives into the machinery of internet fame, hit like, subscribe, and share your take in the comments.